Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we are looking at The Barrell Street Murder by J.C. Bybee. Typically I like murder mysteries. This kind of was a different take for me because it's a murder mystery, but it's a fantasy. The detective is actually an immortal elf, and she has these different powers that are kind of really cool. She has necromancy, which means she can raise the dead. She has conjuration powers. She has a life sense power, which means that she can touch someone and tell exactly really close, how much time they have left to live. And she's incredibly compassionate, and she's married to like a mountain orc, and she befriends a beastkin, and which is exactly kind of what you would think that a beast, like that's exactly what you think when you think of the word beastkin. It's basically a animal and a human like mix. But she's incredibly powerful, not just in magic, but she's also really strong. She's a great, capable fighter. I liked the main character almost immediately. There was no like pretentious air. She's not humble necessarily, but she's not arrogant. She doesn't go around telling anybody who she is or what powers she has unless it's absolutely necessary. The city council knows who and what she is, and they give her a lot of freedom to do whatever she needs to do to solve the cases that they give her. But when she's talking to people and they'll ask her questions, she'll give them the answers that they need. And like at one point she's working with this boy who has been corrupted, kind of possessed by a demon of sorts, and she helps get him cleansed of this demon, gets him exorcised. And the parents are obviously grateful for this, but when they are talking to her, she's telling them that he needs to study a certain kind of magic in order to continue to protect himself, and they're like, well, that's not his talent. His inclination is actually this. And she's like, okay, based on what you've seen with me today, what would you say my inclination is? And they're like, oh, it would be conjuration. And she's like, it's not. My inclination is necromancy. Just because you have an inclination for something, having an inclination for something means that you are really good for that, like that comes easy to you. But just because that school of thought comes easy to you doesn't mean another school of thought isn't also going to be a value to you to learn. And I love that because, like, with my brothers and I, my youngest brother, his inclination was study. I tell everybody that my youngest brother was the scholar of our family. My oldest brother was the artist of the family. My middle brother was the kind of brains of the family. And then I was the writer. And my oldest brother, he is really good at drawing and art, but he is incredibly great with technology and programming computers and whatnot. My middle brother, who his natural talent is numbers and science and electricity and building things, he has the creative brain to build things. So he's got an artistic style to him, or an artistic side to him, but it's more in how to build furniture and how to put vehicles together and how to make vehicles work better. And so his is very much into building furniture and making and mechanical stuff. And then my youngest brother, he loves learning things, but he is also really good at art. He is really good at science and building things. He's a great gardener. He's a handyman. Like, there's not really anything my younger brother can't do because of his willingness to just always want to learn. And then for me, I was terrible at math, but obviously math is something you're going to have to you're going to use in your everyday life. May not be the kind of math that your teachers say you're going to use every single day. Like, I don't know that I use calculus very often, but I do use a very basic math system when it comes to figuring out the budget, our family budgets, or helping to come up with planning a trip or whatever. How much money are we going to need to, say, take a trip to Massachusetts in the fall, or to go down to Alabama in the summer? You know, what is it going to cost with food and gas and lodging and whatnot? What kind of things do we want to experience while we're there? What's that going to cost? And kind of figuring that out. And so, even though my inclination is towards writing, I also enjoy doing this. I like to make videos. I like to I actually enjoy sitting down with the budget and going over the numbers, even though math isn't my strong suit. And that kind of applies in this story as well, where you have all these different mages, and one is their conjuration is their strong suit, but then they also have this other magic that they are really good at, or the summoning magic that they're really good at, or whatever. And so I like that there's a kind of a real world relationship of, just because you're naturally good at one thing doesn't mean you shouldn't also pursue something else that you're maybe not as good at, but is still going to complement what you're doing. You know, it's kind of like how baseball players benefit from taking a little bit of ballet, you know. But I like the characters because you have, I keep forgetting her name, it's like Aurora. Yeah, Aurora the Brightest Day. She's an elf. She's the elf that's doing all this. And then Cortul is her husband, a mountain orc, and he is a little bit what you think an orc would be, but also not so much, because he's very big and he's very tough and he has a great sense of smell and he is very intimidating. So, you know, when you meet him, you're like, I gotta fight for my life here. And then he's the kind that will kind of take in the situation and be like, this is not a good place for you guys. And so, like, at one point, he's talking to these two boys and these two young men that are in their, like, 20s. And he's like, you guys shouldn't be around here. This is where thieves, hang out. And they're like, why do you think we're down here? And he's like, you can do better than that, though. And they're like, yeah, but scum is scum, sir. And he's like, who said that you were scum? Who told you that? And so he makes them come with him, and he gives them a good meal, and he takes them to a blacksmith and has the blacksmith train them and gives them this hope of, you are not you're not the victim of your circumstances, and you are not required to take whatever life hands you. You can go for more than, you know, you're worth more. And he's like that with everybody he meets. But then when he meets with the dwarf, who is the blacksmith, the two of them are very brusque. Anytime the two of them come together and they're talking, they're very classic old men, like, where are you, you ugly boar? Right in front of you, you blind bat. you know, and it's just their way of greeting each other, and they laugh and joke, and they have, like I said, a kind of common old man type, like this is a long-standing friendship, and there's a deep respect between him and his wife. And then Vera, the beastkin, comes into the picture, and Aurora immediately takes a liking to her as a new friend, that the two of them can they have a lot in common, that they both have their talents and their ties to the ancient gods that help them to develop kind of a sisterhood with one another. And there's not, everybody in the area is not all good, they're not all bad. Everybody is there's a good three-dimensional build to each of the characters, including one of the professors. I think she's an archmage, but she's very promiscuous, and she's very she thinks highly of how she looks, and she's always flirting with the guys and everything. And Aurora is like, I do not approve of the way you carry yourself, and if it weren't for the fact that you were good at what you do, I probably would not have anything to do with you. But Aurora can very much appreciate and acknowledge, you are good at what you do, you do have this knowledge, you do have these skills, you're just not a pleasant person to be around. And she doesn't necessarily hold that against her, she just doesn't not hold that against her. But the way everything gets untangled, it's, despite being in a fantasy, and I love this fantasy world, and I'm tickled beyond belief that this is the Telvania Mysteries Volume 1, which indicates that there's another book, and I definitely want the next book. And I hope this is one of those series that just continues on. One of the things I will say quickly about a series, especially from self-published authors, the one thing that I get irritated about is when people are like, well, if the series isn't finished, don't read the first book. Don't read the first book until the entire series is finished. The problem with that with a self-published author is that they're under no obligation to finish the series. And if the first book does not do well, the first thing they start thinking is, I'm not going to read this book or I'm not going to write the second book because nobody liked the first book. Or even if they write, if it's say it's like a Harry Potter-esque series, you know. If people didn't read the first Harry Potter book and didn't pick it up and like it, and granted, it really became popular in its fourth book, but by the fourth book, the reason the fourth book was so big is because by that time the author had proven that she could make a lot of money with these books, because typically with publishers, they want the books to stay within a certain word count. But if nobody had read the first 2 or 3 books and didn't want to get involved in the series, the rest of the series wouldn't exist. And there's a lot of people out there that, because of the kind of person that the author is, would say that we'd be better off without the Harry Potter series if it meant that we didn't have to deal with the author in question. But the same holds true with the self-published authors, and it actually holds more true with them, because if a self-published author puts out a book and it's obviously like this one is going to be a series, and people are like, well, I'm not going to read it because the series isn't completed yet, then first of all, you don't know how many books are going to be in the series necessarily unless the author tells you how many they're intending to put in the series. But if that author writes the first book, and then they write the second book and the third book, and after writing the third book, nobody buys it, they have no reason. They start figuring out, you know what? Nobody really cares about this series. I'm just not going to finish it. I just don't have it in me to do it. And you can call them weak if you want to. You can call them sensitive, whatever. The point is that time and effort does get put into these books, and there's no reason to put in the time and effort for something that you're hoping will turn a profit if it's not going to turn a profit. You know, a lot of businesses aren't going to sell things, like stores aren't going to sell things that aren't going to get bought. Why would they put it in their store if nobody wants it? You know, and it's the same thing with the series. Why should I continue writing this series if nobody wants to read it? And it doesn't matter if there's people saying, well, I'll read it once it's finished. The thing that I would say, and that I have experienced myself, is absolutely read the books as they're coming out, because as you're engaging with the author on social media and whatnot, and you're telling them your thoughts and feelings about the book, you are influencing the series. I actually had this happen with one series where I was very upset that a character didn't necessarily die. You don't see them die, but they are missing in action. And you're left to assume that the character has died. And I reached out to the author and I gave her a hard time, jokingly. She and I bantered back and forth, and there was a reason. The character had to quote-unquote die for a certain part of the story to move forward, because otherwise it wouldn't work, you know. So that character had to not be there, and they had to believe, the characters involved had to believe that that character had died in order for the next part to happen. And I explained to the author how upset I was that the character was allegedly dead, and how I kind of hoped that there was some way of kind of redacting that in a way, like fixing that. And she is like, oh yeah, don't worry, it's in the next book. You'll have a explanation of what happened to him. Don't worry. And she wasn't originally going to do that, but then she decided that no, that's actually a really good idea. I need to explain that that character did not actually pass away and that they're fine. And like I said, she originally wasn't going to include that. She was just going to leave it up to let people decide whether or not they thought that that character had died or not. In another one, there's several books that are in series that when talking to the author, I've made a comment, or somebody else has made a comment in talking to them about their book, like, oh yeah, I finished I saw one where somebody said something about they finished a book that they had written. It was like the second one in their series, and they had a thought about something, and they're like, I think this is what's going to happen. And the author said, wow, that is an interesting insight that I had not considered. And that reader had an impact on the series. So I would absolutely encourage you to read the books as they're coming out, first of all, because you get to see them as they're developing, But as you're able to leave your reviews for these, and definitely, absolutely leave reviews for these books that you're reading, but leave a review and, you know, make sure you're saying what you think might happen or the things that you hope to see, because the author is reading those reviews and they're seeing those, and it may influence the future book. So I have no notes as far as this one goes. I liked everything about it. I don't know that I would myself change anything about the book, and I don't have any preconceptions of where the story should go. I just know that I'm excited to read the next book. I haven't checked to see if it has come out yet. If it has, I will not only link this in the description, but I will link the other book in the description as well, if there are more in the series available. If not, stay tuned to this series. But yeah, I absolutely want to see more from... I want to explore Tavana more. I want to explore this world, and I want to hang out with these characters more. So I can't I can't recommend it enough. It was such an enjoyable read, and I kept trying to get myself to slow down and enjoy it, but it was like, what's happening next? This was supposed to be my work book, the book that I read at work, but it ended up going everywhere with me. It was in my car, it was beside my bed, it was at church, it was beside my chair, it was at work. It was just, I could not, I didn't want to be without this book until I was finished with the story. So I definitely recommend it, especially to anybody who likes fantasy and murder mysteries, or if you like fantasy, if you like murder mysteries. If you only like one, this is a good book for you. If you like both, this is a good book for you. But as always, I will leave a link for at least this book in the description below, along with one of mine if you want to check it out. And until then, I will see you next time. What am I going to read next? Probably A Promise. Okay, so these are the books I'm reading now. This is now that I'm finished with this one, this is my car book. The Treasured One by Hannah Levin. And then my bedside book is A Promise by Amelia Martin. And I will tell you about those when I finish reading them and get done with them. So until then, bye.